I want to talk about the shit they don't teach you at school, right? The conversations I wasn't having at my dinner table, I want to invite people to the room where it happens. I want to give them an invitation or a seat so that we can have these conversations, whether it's on budgeting, personal finance, generational wealth built through real estate, entrepreneurship, sales skills, etc. Basically all the stuff they don't teach us in school.
Welcome to the Willpower Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of success and share the wisdom of exceptional individuals. I'm your host, William Gomez, and as a real estate professional, I bring you insights from the world of real estate and beyond. Join me as I engage in captivating conversations with incredible guests from diverse backgrounds and industries, from top real estate moguls to trailblazing entrepreneurs and influencers. We dive into the mindsets and habits of successful people. If you love what you hear, don't forget to rate and review. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and enlightened. Live life today on Willpower. Dustin Owen, bro, thank you so much for making time to be here, man.
Well, I'm excited. I am so excited. I was in Tulsa for a loan officer event, and you're like, bro, you're going to be in town. You mind swinging by the office? And I'm like, man, if we can make it work, and we're making it work.
Yes, I'm going to be your Uber after this. Take you to the airport.
Yes, I get to do the Woober. That's Will's Uber is the Woober. It's going to take me from his studio to the airport so I can fly back to Orlando.
There you go, man. So I meant to grab Carrick's introduction for you yesterday, but I don't think our podcast is that long that it...
Yo, what's crazy? So yeah, you're referencing Carrick Draper. So Carrick Draper and the Oklahoma Mortgage Bankers Association had me come in. We did an awesome event for about 100 loan officers from really the surrounding area, right? Because it wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma City represented, Arkansas represented. We had people drive in from Dallas representing, and they asked me for a bio, and I have two bios, and one's called the short bio. I sent him the short bio, and then he's reading it, and it keeps going and going. I'm like, crap, that's probably not a short bio. But are you asking me to recite that bio? Or are you saying, no, we don't have enough time? People can go to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Google and figure out who I am.
Well, I'm sure that some of the people that were there yesterday will listen to this podcast and have heard that bio. I will try to recite what I remember and then fill in the gaps for me. And the reason I say that is because you had a great turnout. We had over 100 people RSVP'd, packed room, and man, for people that haven't heard your name before, you're a loan officer, loan guy. You have a big team out there in Orlando for Waterstone Mortgage. You are a podcaster, which is a thing that I'm excited to kind of talk about. We've kind of already been talking about it a little bit to kind of pick your brain on that. And you're a coach. You're an athlete, triathlon, Ironman, and I'm super excited to just pick your brain and a little bit of everything. So, is there anything that out of the long list that I'm missing on that?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I'm a mortgage dude. Like at the end of the day, I'm a mortgage banker. I started in the industry 20 years ago. To be 20 years this June as a rookie loan officer. And then I just kind of rose the ranks, and every time I got bored, I would try something different, and I'd get bored, I'd try something different. So you go from a low-producing loan officer who's barely getting by with $10,000 in credit card debt to, I figured this out. Now I'm getting recognized as a top producer. That's cool. What else can I do? Opened a branch. That's cool. What else can I do? Let's go open 3 more branches. Well, if you have 3, why not have 7? Then all of a sudden you're realizing, I'm no longer a loan officer. I'm not really a branch manager. I guess I'm like some kind of a regional, divisional sales executive. And then you find yourself in your day-to-day, you're coaching loan officers for a living. Although you wouldn't call yourself a coach, you're just a mortgage dude. And then through that, I decided, you know what would be fun? Let's go ahead and take all the content I've been producing for the past, at that time, 15 years, and I say content, the conversations I was having with real estate agents, the conversations I was having with home buyers, the conversations I was having with my loan officers, or even at that point, my branch managers, let's start recording it. Hey, there's this thing called a podcast. All the cool kids are doing it. Let's go ahead and start a podcast. So I started a podcast, had a terrible name. Right, still have a terrible name, The Loan Officer Podcast. And I say it's terrible because my idea is I want to talk about the shit they don't teach you at school, right? The conversations I wasn't having at my dinner table, I want to invite people to the room where it happens. I want to give them an invitation or a seat so that we can have these conversations, whether it's on budgeting, personal finance, generational wealth built through real estate, entrepreneurship, sales skills, etc. Basically all the stuff they don't teach us in school. But I couldn't come up with a name that I liked, so we just called it the Loan Officer Podcast. So now I have to tell people, don't let the name fool you. I create content for loan officers and the clients they serve. And the clients, because you're a great loan officer, who are your clients? Realtors, builders, financial advisors. Who are your customers? Home buyers, homeowners, basically 80% of the American populace. So I look at myself wholeheartedly as a mortgage dude, but that means so much more if you start thinking about all of the lives that you get to impact as a mortgage loan originator.
Yeah, and man, I just want to say congratulations because you've done a great job at it. You started in 2020, which that's really whenever podcasts took off. I mean, I've been doing this since I'd say May of 2022.
Okay.
So coming up on 2 years, which is crazy. It's crazy that we're in like 2022, 2023. You know, it seems like these are years that you thought were like so far away in the future. You know, but as of recent numbers, there's over 2 million podcast shows in the world. But if you have at least 21 episodes, you're in the top 10% of those shows.
No way. Meaning people don't even make it to 10?
People don't, yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
And
congratulations to you because you've stuck with it. You're at episode 71 or 72.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because you just hit your 400 mark, over 400.
Yes, 400 episodes, and we're finally going to build out a studio that's going to like rival the badass studio you have built out here.
Dude, I'm glad I'm doing something right because you're killing it. And I will say, unlike you've been in the business for 20 years. I will hit my 7th year February 1st next month. And I started February 1st of 2018, and I remember getting sat into my office, and they were like, "All right, welcome." And I was like, "What training am I taking?" And they're like, "There is no training. You just start calling people." And I was so confused. I was like, I thought I was going to get some sort of training. So if I could have gotten a hold of your podcast back in 2018 and just consumed all that content, dude, I would have been able to excel in my career a lot faster than I did. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Putting that content, and also want to congratulate you again on that event yesterday. And I know you've had different events like that, but I listened to episode 41. And it was like, should you be a loan officer or something like that?
Yes.
And then you talked about your co-host, John.
Yes.
He said, we should take this on the road, man. And then
No
it was during
way.
COVID. It was during COVID. And you're like, well, maybe next year in 2021, because right now we can't get in anywhere. And boom, dude, you got to speak things into existence.
You do. John told me that actually. My co-host, guy named John Coleman, he's a phenomenal co-host because he is the audience. He's not a mortgage dude, right? He is second generation college educated. He is a kind of content, video, promotion, marketing person, but like most people, he's a millennial, which I love, which you're a millennial too, right?
Yeah, this is my last couple weeks of my 20s, dude.
Oh, no way. Well, happy early birthday.
Thanks.
And he makes the perfect co-host because I get to speak to him as if he was a rookie loan officer. I get to speak to him like he's just starting his real estate career. I get to speak to him as if he's trying to buy a house. Because although he's second generation college educated, do you think he's financially like literate? No, he's like most Americans. We're not financially literate because they didn't teach it to us in middle school, high school. Our parents didn't talk to us about it at the dinner table. And if you had parents like that, wow, you're super fortunate. And so I think it's cool that you went back and you referenced episode 41. For anyone who's thinking about podcasting, episode 41, think about this. That's what put us on the map. That was the first episode. If you go to YouTube right now, it probably has 75,000 downloads. But that episode, it hit. That's what popped. And I don't even think we found our cadence. I think we found our cadence somewhere around episode 48 or 52, meaning it took us a solid 6 months before we ever knew what we were doing, found our voice, found our cadence. And I think that's a life lesson, not just for anyone looking to podcast, but you, the rookie loan officer 7 years ago, like, you showed endurance, you showed fortitude, you made it through your first 2 years. Now you as a podcast host, you're 6 months away from hitting that, what I call milestone moment of 2 years. I think it takes 2 years to do really anything, which means you're onto something, right? If you're sticking it out, if you've done 71 episodes, you built out this awesome studio, yeah, you're onto something. I now need to be wary of what Will's going to do. Is Will going to come from my light, or is the light bright enough that we can share it? I do believe the light's bright enough that 100%. We can share it. Yeah,
I appreciate that, man. And I just want to point something out that you said. It took you 41 episodes to see something, whether you want to call it blow up or to get some type of momentum. And I just told you that so many people don't even make it to episode 21. Because we the longer that we are living in this world with technology, as fast as it's moving, I just saw this thing that Elon in the next 3 to 5 years, they already have it, but it's going to take them a couple more years before they can sell it. But it's a robot that they're selling for $20,000 that it can clean your house, it can take care of kids, take care of your elderly parents, like it can do all these things. And it's like, that's the world that we're living in, to where the further that we're moving into that world, the less patience that we have. So people don't want to post reels because they see all the reels that they're looking at, they have millions of views, they have millions of likes. And if they post something that has 500 views for their first video, they're like, this isn't for me. And people don't realize that it takes a long time. And same thing in the loan officer world. Like yesterday, people go in, see the loan officer panel, see Mike David that did, 60 million last year on a down year, over 200 units. And they're just like, I've been doing this for a year and I only closed 30 loans. And they're like, maybe this isn't for me. People don't have the patience, and that's where they do themselves a disservice.
Yeah, the patience and the fortitude. So I decided to podcast because I'm a podcast fan, right? And that's how it started. And really, I was a fan of talk radio when I was in my late teens, early 20s, whether it's sports talk, whether it was in Orlando, we had this radio station, it's an FM station, 104.1, it's called Real Radio. And Real Radio is where you could hear Howard Stern, but they also had their own morning show. And I was just a fan of all of that. But so as a podcast listener, some of my favorites right now is I like to tune into Ed Milet. And
good.
Ed gives good interviews, and the interviews are an hour or less. And that's what I like about it. Like, I love Rogan and I love Jocko too, but holy cow, 3.5 hour episodes. Like, I train, and sometimes my bike rides are 3 hours long, but I don't know if I can listen to Jocko for 3 hours on a bike ride or Rogan for 3 hours. So Ed Milet's the place I like to go because they're 1 hour and he has great interviews. So he has Jen, I'm a butcher her last name. I think it's Gottlieb, something like that. And I'm not familiar with her, but she's a big who's who. I mean, if you're on Ed's show, you're a who's who, right? Like this is like the number one podcast right now, or close to. And Ed Milet's kind of like the new age Tony Robbins, or at least that's where he's trying to position himself. Yeah. But anyhow, Jen said this, and I think it's imperative that we recognize it. Too many times we compare our chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. But they started writing their book 3 years ago. We're starting our book today.
Exactly.
We can't compare ourselves to anyone but ourselves. And we need to be grateful for whatever it is that we're doing. You mentioned loan officers making reels because you crush it in that scene.
Thank you,
right?
Man.
Like, you absolutely crush it. You're what people are chasing. But I'm sure if you sat down with someone, you could scroll through 2-3 years ago and
100%.
see the reels that you were doing 3 years ago and be like, look, that got no views. And by the way, you probably learned, I want to pick your brain about this. You get great views, but I'd be interested to hear from you what you've learned. How do you turn those views into leads?
That's a question that I get asked quite a bit. That was one of the questions that you got asked yesterday at the event. And my answer is I always tell people it's not the answer that you're looking for, because here's what people are looking for. And it's something that I did whenever I started. Whenever I left the bank and I moved and I felt like I had more freedom to work on my personal brand, I hired a girl that was helping me run like my business page. And I remember her telling me, she said, you have to do video. She's like, no worries. Like, I'm going to do the scripts for you. I'm going to come film you and everything. But it was those videos that, you can go back. Actually, you have to go back to my old business page that's still
you're saying your Facebook business page.
I had a Facebook business page and a Instagram business page, which I was just like everybody else, like, I want to keep it separate. But it's like, if you keep things separate, like, that's not your brand. But
correct.
It was this video. It's like, hi, my name is William Gomez and I'm with the Mortgage Link. Today I'm going to talk to you about FHA loans. Dude, they were getting like 60 views. And then she would be like, the reason they're not getting views is because you're not paying for people to view it. And so I was having to pay her. I was having to pay for like ads pretty much. And I was getting frustrated because my thought was, I'm doing this so people can call me and say, hey, I watched your FHA video. Can you do a loan for me?
Yeah.
And that's every loan officer out there. That's their quote unquote motivation, they're like, I've posted 10 videos and I haven't gotten any single lead. Do I get business from it? Yes, I do. But here's how. I have never had one video, and I've had videos that have had almost 4 million views. And I can't tell you that video got me one loan. But what I can tell you is that the way that I've been able to grow my audience, I'm able to create relationships. And people, how did this happen? It happened in the DMs. You being here and being on the podcast, it happened. It wasn't like because of the video that you posted that say, I'm going to be in Tulsa. Like, we didn't have that whole conversation in there. We had it in the DMs.
Yes.
So part of like my greatness tracker that I do every single week, which I track my activity every single week on the calls, the texts, all this stuff, is I have to hit a certain amount of DMs that I do every single week in order to be able to get appointments from that. I will tell you, my number one realtor from 2023, I got her because of social media. She started seeing what I was doing on just my feed, and she's like, the loan officer that I'm working with is not doing anything like that, and I want somebody like that. And it took me about 2 to maybe 3 months of DMs to create a relationship to finally meet her. And then in late 2022, she gave me a shot with 2 deals. And this past year, we closed like 16, 17 deals.
Wow. No, and that is, I think what you just dropped right there for especially a mortgage loan originator, but really anyone who does what we do for a living. Like, I look at what we do for a living. You could be selling fancy clothes at Tom James. You could be selling life insurance at Northwestern Mutual. You could be a commercial realtor at Jones Lang LaSalle, or a residential realtor over at EXP or Keller Williams, right? The nuggets that you just dropped resonate amongst all of those professions. And it's like, you're the brand, you're the product, and you need to be leveraging video and you need to be putting yourself out there. But most of those people in those sales, entrepreneurship type businesses, we want easy. We want to take a pill that makes us less fat, right? We don't want to have to work hard, but you're like, no. This allows me to work more efficient, but I still have to work hard. You're not going to just create a video and then all of a sudden your phone's going to ring. You're going to create a video and it's going to be okay. You're going to create more videos and you'll get good at it. You'll continue doing it for a year and a half, 2 years, and you'll finally get really proficient. All the video and the image and the following does for you, what I've witnessed, and people like you, it makes your job easier. It compounds the effort you're already putting in. Like, that realtor was willing to accept your phone call because she could look at your video content and be like, wow, that dude's sharp. Wow, that dude presents well. Wow, that dude's knowledgeable. I wonder if I would like him. I think I'm going to like him. Versus if you weren't putting yourself out there, they're going to ghost you.
100%. And I think that you hit the nail right in the head yesterday with your response that you said, do you make any money when you go to networking events?
Oh, you like that?
I love that.
Yeah.
because it's kind of the same answer. Like, how many leads did the people get yesterday? Were you giving out free leads?
Yeah, no.
Like, you're going there to make your life easier, make your business easier. The other thing that I want to add on there before we move on to the next thing is that you can be really good at posting content, but one of the greatest compliments that you can get, which I got a couple comments yesterday that when I met new people that I had met, they're like, dude, you're just like your videos. And I'm like, I hope. It's kind of like when I got in the business, and I remember, sending emails, and it has your picture and your email. And then I would go to places and people would be like, you look just like your picture. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that supposed to be they're like, well, and then I learned that you have those realtors that have their 1985 headshot. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I never want to be that guy. But the reason I'm saying that is because, one, people try to imitate other people, and it makes them not be themselves. That's one thing. But the number 2 thing is, the reason why I'm getting the traction I'm getting is because of stories. I told you, we had to crank it up to 72 in here because I'm like still kind of shivering because my New Year, the New Year's thing that I was going to do is do a cold plunge every single morning. Every single morning. Wake up out of bed, just go out there. And this morning, dude, it was
It's like
hard.
24 degrees right now in Tulsa.
Normally the longer I stay in bed, the warmer it gets. It was the opposite this morning. It was like the longer I stayed in bed, the colder it was getting, and it was 19. And when I looked at my app, it said it felt like 3 degrees outside. That's how, like, because the wind.
Are you cold plunging? Like, did you go out and buy a cold plunge tub?
Yes.
And then what do you like spend like $1,000 a month on ice?
So here's the thing is that I want, and it's funny that we're talking about social media because right around the same time that I went to Neil's content day and dropped $5,000 to go out there, I was going to spend $5,000 on a cold plunge that is like stays cool the entire time. But I was like, no, I got to do this. This is going to make me more money. And that's how I think about so many other things. Yesterday, you talked about, how much your program cost. And most people think that's a lot of money. But the way that you break it down, it's like, that's just one extra loan.
1/2 of one commission. Literally.
Exactly.
Like, yes. And we're too cheap. We have a consultants coming in telling us,
I agree.
You should be $5,000 or $6,000 minimum. And I'm cool. We may very well get there because at some point I'm going to want to put a limit on how many people get invited into the community. And in order to do so, you do so by increasing the cost for people joining. But yeah, we charge $2,000 a year right now. You join our community. That's 80 live sales training or sales coaching calls, 2 with me, 5 with faculty. You have an e-learning platform that has hundreds of training videos, as well as like all of the downloadables, the PDFs and the Excel spreadsheets that guys and girls like you, top producers in the industry use. You take for granted that you use it, yet there's so many people who want to aspire to have your production or even double your production, and they don't know where to turn. So this was interesting. We didn't even go here earlier, but the podcast, people say, oh my God, you must kill it on the podcast. Dude, the podcast makes me no money. The podcast probably cost me 20 or 30 grand when I look at what I've invested time as well as equipment. But the podcast allowed me to build an audience. The audience raised their hand and said, D.O., we need more. We want more. And what the audience told to me was, you need to develop a coaching and training company that is specifically for loan officers. Because my podcast isn't specifically for loan officers. Loan officers love it, and it's called the Loan Officer Podcast. So yeah, shameless plug. It's TLOP, TLOP online.com. If you are a mortgage loan originator and you're looking for coaching or support, mentorship, training, for a whopping $2,000 a year, you can have
a year.
A year, not a month.
Shoot.
You thought I said a month. No, it's $2,000. Right now it's $2,000 for a year. And by the way, I have a partnership with the Knowledge Coop. The Knowledge Coop is my favorite place to go for compliance because they make compliance fun. So with that annual membership, all your CEs included. And you get a complimentary membership to Knowledge Coop. No, we should be charging $5,000 to $6,000 a year. Right now, it's only $2,000 a year.
One of the things that I get asked is how are you doing what you're doing? And especially in a down market, all this stuff. And I tell people I spend money on my personal development, like the amount of money that I've been to not one but 2 Neil Contents days. I've been to not one, but 2 Amplifies with Renee. Renee's actually been on the podcast.
That's Renee Rodriguez, by the way.
Yes. The reason I'm bringing that up is because yesterday one of the things you talked about is becoming a better communicator, better storyteller. And you said, if you guys want to drop $6,000 to go to his class or read his book, but if you guys look up, he has a podcast as well. Just listening to his podcast, you'll be able to become a better communicator. Like, I thought I was a decent communicator before, like the first class I went to. Dude, it just opens your eyes. But to wrap the what I was telling you is that not buying that $5,000 cult tub was the best thing I could have done because I went and created the personal brand that I did. So this year for Christmas, my wife always likes to overspend on me, and I'm just like, hey. And also I always return her gifts because I'm like, I don't need this. Yeah. So I said, hey, I'm running my first marathon this Sunday.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Where at?
Houston.
In Houston, going down to H-Town.
Yes.
Okay.
And then so I said, I'm going to buy some new shoes. They're like $200 running shoes. And I said, don't get me anything. And she was like, I already bought you something. And I'm like, just give it to me for my birthday because my birthday's coming up. And she said, I have to get you something at least. So she bought me actually $100 cold plunge that you just buy. And I've kept it in the backyard. And you've seen how cold it gets. So that thing has been getting down in the 30s.
Oh, so you don't need ice?
No, not until the summertime because it gets super hot. But the thing is that we as humans buy things that we think that we need and then we like never use them again. So even though I'm really consistent on going to CrossFit in the gym, during COVID, I was like, I want to have a home gym. And I spent so much money just developing this home gym that I never use. So this will, if I do spend the $5,000 or whatever on the cold tub when it comes to the summer, because I think that that'll be way more convenient than having to do the ice packs and all that stuff. I think that I'll have earned my way of like, this is a habit now, and I need this now.
I like that. Yeah, you start in the winter. Start with $100, fill it up. The outdoor temperature will make sure it keeps it cold enough for you, and then you'll reward yourself in the summertime if you stayed consistent. A question for you: how long do you stay in the cold plunge for?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
It's the goal. But here's the thing: is that Huberman, who's been on, he has his own podcast, and he has been on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's a scientist at Stanford, and the studies that they have done is that if you do 11 minutes a week, that's when you'll get all the benefits, which there's all kinds of benefits out there as far as like inflammation, boost of energy. He has said that the amount of dopamine that you gain from one line of cocaine will last 9 minutes, and you'll get that same release in dopamine and your endorphins from doing 3 minutes in a cold plunge that will last up to 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours, the same exact feeling.
Wow.
And I can attest to that as far as like after I'm like done shivering, because it takes me probably 40 minutes to an hour to like fully be like back to normal. I feel like I'm like on a high at like freaking 5:30 a.m.
Okay, well, you've convinced me. I'm gonna have to figure this out. I've done some like hop in the bathtub during like I do 1 or 2 Ironman races a year, and I don't do the fulls. I do the half. So
what are the distances on that?
So on a half, you're doing a 1.2 mile swim, then you do a 56 mile bike, and then you do a 13.1 mile run. So it's about a 6 hour race, right? If you're really good, it's a 5 hour and 15 minute race. But like the goal, kind of like with a marathon or a half, like a marathon, you want to probably come in under 4 hours, or a half marathon, you're trying to come in under 2. When you're doing what we call an Ironman 70.3, just if you're a novice, which most of us are, if you can come in under 6 hours, like you're doing something good. But for most people, just completing the race is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And then so a full is just double all that. So 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a marathon at the end. I have friends of mine who have never done a marathon, but they've done 2 full Ironman. So they're like, well, I've never done a marathon by itself, but I've done a marathon after I swam 2.4 miles, after I biked 112 miles.
Dude, so I have never done a marathon. This will be my first one. I've done 3 halves, and I've done them without training. I'll just go out there and then just run them. And my biggest thing is I do CrossFit. I ruptured my Achilles almost a year ago. It was the day before the Super Bowl in 2023. And so I couldn't walk for like 4 months. Wow. And then so I remember the first time that I ran, and when I couldn't walk, I was like, man, there's so many things that you take for granted. And running was one of them, because I like hated running, but I like getting medals. I like going to the things. And then so I was like, I can't just go out there and run a marathon without any training. So most people do like a 24 to 26 week training program. I did a 12-week training program, and I did half of it. So
what's your longest distance that you've run in training?
22.
Okay, so you're good.
22 miles.
If you got 22 done, and then to me, a marathon to me is, especially the first one, just completing it puts you in the top 1% of all human beings probably.
Goal, yeah, it's less than 1%. I looked it up. That's what motivated me too. So it's goal is 345. Stretch non-negotiable is 4, and then the stretch goal is 330, which
and Houston's going to be flat, and the weather's going to be good.
Yeah.
So that should help you. Like what I've learned is like my best times happen when it's like 45 degrees and sunny. My body does not adapt well. Although I'm a Floridian, I do not adapt well to heat or humidity. But I adapt really well to like maybe not this Tulsa cold weather we're having today.
Yeah.
But man, good luck to you. That's so awesome. I've never done the 26.2 run distance.
Well, I've never done. I'm doing my first duathlon in March, and it's quick, like 5K, 25K, 5K, because if I was to do even a half Ironman, I would have to train so hard, especially in the swim part, dude.
So I'll tell you, it'll take you 16 weeks. You only need 16 weeks because you're in shape, because you CrossFit. In 16 weeks, you could get in there, and the swim is the easiest part. And you're talking to someone, dude. I could not do a lap in the pool 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I could not do like there and back without being winded, without needing to stand up. And I went to YouTube University because it's free. And I started just, I say Googling, but YouTubing, searching for videos on just how do I properly breathe? What's the right stroke and what's a cadence, et cetera, et cetera. Taught myself how to swim. And in the very beginning, I was freestyle, and then I would do a breaststroke because breaststroke is probably the easiest stroke. And my goal, my very first race I did was a 1 mile, just a lake swim. And 3/4 of it I did freestyle, but 1/4 of it I had to do breaststroke. And it's like anything, it's compounding efforts and compounding effects. You start small and you build, you start small and you build. I remember the first time I did a 15K, which is like 9.2 miles or something like that, 9.3 miles, I think. And that was the first time I ever ran that much without stopping. That was just 2021. So up until 2021, I had never been able to run 9 miles without stopping.
Man, and I'm so glad you're talking about this because that's with everything. Like going back to the podcast, one of the things, Kyle Bradley was on the panel yesterday, and I think he was the most transparent. I think they all were great, but he was saying like, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been doing this for 20 years, but up until 2018, like I just like wasn't structured, and like I would be doing like, 1 loan or 2 loans a month, just like a lot of loan officers are out there. And one thing too, that I think kind of references not just only for loan officers, but anybody else that's, starting their own business or something similar like the loan officer structure, like sales, is so many people want to just go into, like I had never really done a cold plunge, maybe a couple, and I wanted to go to the $5,000 one. Yeah. And nobody wants to start with the $100 one and work their way up. And that's the same thing that we talked about on, so many people are like, hey, I've been in the business for 6 months. Like, when do I get my assistant? Yeah. And people see somebody like Kyle that they're like, well, it's easy for Kyle because he has, people that are doing this, and this, and they don't see that he's been doing it for 20 years.
Correct. Everything's a process. Like you and I are talking about half Ironmans and marathons, and the stories that I tell, I'm trying to tell the story as words of encouragement because we all have to start somewhere. That's that whole, you may be on chapter 1, I'm on chapter 20, but imagine what your chapter 20 is going to look like. It may very well look way better than mine did. But don't be afraid to start at chapter 1. Yeah. Starting your loan officer business or your real estate, brokerage, whatever the case may be, you start small. I had a guest on my show month ago, and I respect the hell out of her. She is a fintech unicorn, right? So this is someone who had an idea, dropped everything that she was doing to invest in this idea, and ended up growing a company that's worth over $1 billion. But it was what she said about her process. She said she had to learn as a fintech startup company that she didn't know how to go A to Z. Like she didn't, but she could go A to B. And then once she got to B, she could try to go B to C. And it's just kind of that works in life in general. Heck, you're a young parent. You're probably learning that right now in parenting. Like you don't know how to become a great parent until you parent. Yeah. So you have to go A to B and B to C, and you can read your books and listen to your podcast and figure out how, the best child psychologist may teach you to parent, but you're going to learn it by doing. So much of life and business is you got to learn by doing. You mentioned the panel. Nothing chaps my rear end more when a lower producer at whatever industry says, well, of course so-and-so has done it because look at their team, look at their support. I'm like, wait a minute. Someone had to take the chance to hire that team. Someone had to teach and train that team. Someone had to put together the systems and processes the team's going to follow. And if you get to know any of these top producers in whatever industry, they were top producers before they hired a team. They hired a team because their work-life balance was out of balance. They hired a team because they were maybe plateauing. They hired a team because they were a hot mess. They were successful in terms of like generating revenue, but they weren't successful in terms of like being scalable. But you're not going to hire a team and then all of a sudden make it. You're going to make it because you have that drive and determination to make it.
Dude, people want to make excuses for anybody else that it's winning at anything. I remember at this event, I actually met you at that event at a mastermind, mortgage mastermind in Vegas about 1.5 years ago. And Neil, I don't know if you remember, Neil spoke, and one of the things that he said along his spiel, he's like, I made $1.5 million last year. And the person that was sitting next to me goes, well, of course he did. It was the refi boom. And then I go, how much did you make? And they were like, it was like 120K.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why didn't you make that?
Exactly.
But people like to make excuses for anybody else that's doing something that they don't want to, that they want to secretly do, but they don't want to put the effort to do it, which is crazy, man. So what else do you have going on for 2024? Like any big things, I hate to say New Year's resolutions. I always say that I like to do one habit, which mine is the cold plunge this year. I don't know how you do it, but whether it's that or whether it's like things with the podcast later on this year, like what's going on with you this year?
So 2024, it's interesting. I'm with you. I'm not like a resolution person. I love to goal set. And I do like to reset, right? So I use the new year to reset. And my reset was, I'm a big fan of 75 hard. So
you told me that you've done it twice, right?
3 times now.
3 times.
3 times. And by the 3rd time, honestly, it became 75 annoying. But I will tell people 75 hard changed my life. Like me signing up for that, me having the fortitude to complete it, which it took me 101 days to complete it because I flubbed on like week 3 and I had to start all over again. But I want to go back to living the 75 hard lifestyle. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to work out twice a day every day, but it does mean I'm probably going to work out 9 times a week.
So it's workout twice a day, read how long?
Yeah. So for anyone who's interested in Anthony Frisella, who has a podcast of his own. It used to be called the MF CEO Project. It's called something else now, which I don't know because I don't tune in as much as I used to. But anyhow, it was back in like March of 2019. He has an episode where he just comes out and announces this challenge for 75 days. You have to take a picture of yourself. It's called a progress picture. Okay, cool, easy enough. You have to read 10 pages of a book, and you have to read, not listen. Read. Okay, there's statistics and studies that will show you reading is how you learn. Not that you can't learn by audio, but it says read. So and then Anthony would be like, it's called hard MFer for a reason. It's read, not listen. So 10 pages of a book, and the book needs to be a self-help, motivational, business like type book, right? So you're reading 10 pages. You're drinking a gallon of water a day. You are following a healthy diet. Now, the good thing is it's a healthy diet. You get to determine a healthy diet. For me, I cut out French fries. I cut out all sweets, all candy, all soda. But I still eat pizza.
You ate a lot of French fries?
Oh, dude, tater tots are my thing. So tater tots, French fries, and soda used to be my thing.
Don't tell me you're like Napoleon Dynamite. You got some in your pocket.
I do not have any tater tots in my pocket. No, I still ate pizza. I still had hamburgers, but I didn't allow myself for 75 days to have any candy, to have any cupcakes, to have any ice cream. And I cut out soda, which, by the way, I now no longer drink soda. I could crush a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper in a week, but I now don't drink soda. So that was the healthy diet. And then you had to work out twice a day, every day. Each workout had to be for a minimum of 45 minutes. You couldn't cheat and be like, oh, I'm going to go on an hour-and-a-half bike ride. No, it's 2 separate workouts, and one had to be outdoors. What people don't realize is, yes, I lost 35 pounds. Yes, I read 6 books. Yes, those 6 books, helped reshape me. But it is a mental challenge. You will get in shape. You will be at the healthy. Oh, did I tell you no alcohol? No alcohol. Yeah, no alcohol. No alcohol for 75 days. And you're talking to someone who back in the day, I had an issue. I could crank through a handle of Crown Royal in a week. I love to come home and have a couple beverages.
You're definitely a loan officer then.
Yeah, I had never gone that long without alcohol since probably I was a teenager. So nonetheless, you complete this, and I just realized that yes, you can in life. Yes, you can. If you want to do it, you can do it. And I found that I'm the best version of me when I drink less, when I read more, when I exercise, and I like that when I eat healthy. I like that person. So you asked me for 2024. I'm like, how did I get on the 75 hard tangent? You would ask me what. So my goal was I wanted to go back to that lifestyle because I kind of got away from it in 2023. Mainly it was the diet, the alcohol, and the reading is kind of what goes. I still love to exercise. I still drink my water, but those are the 3 things that started slipping. And my intentionality, I have a particular branch that we're going to focus on making sure that's the branch that feels the love the most. So that's something that we're going to be very intentional about. I'm very intentional with growing out TLOP online, like very intentional. It started last year when I actually hired 2 full-time associates. It's now going to be, we just hired our first marketing intern, and we're going to travel and do more events like we just did in Tulsa. And we onboarded faculty. So I now have 5 faculty members who, it's not just me coaching and training and teaching. The 5 faculty members are going to do it. And you want to talk about investing in your business? I'm getting ready to drop $12,000 a month to hire the best consulting firm to make sure that we are maximizing our memberships, to make sure that the people for TLOP online. Yep. So if you are a loan officer and you want to be less of a mess, yes. But like I figured out, I can't do that alone. My team is great, but they can't do it alone. We need to go find the experts, just like you found the experts when it comes to video creation, right? You dropped $5,000, not once, but twice, to go to an event where an expert was going to teach you how to make video content to expand your personal brand. We're getting ready to drop $12,000 a month, 6-month minimum commitment to find. But this company works with like companies like IBM. Like this is a company that will help you put together your sales process to make sure people who love your content, who love your show, who go to your website, who subscribe to your newsletter, that they also know about this awesome community and you're inviting them to come be a part of it. So that's for 2024 what we're looking to do. On the docket, like I'm doing something in Delaware for the Mortgage Bankers Association in Delaware. I'm doing something in Arkansas for the Mortgage Bankers Association of Arkansas. Flat Branch Home Loans out of Kansas City. I'm going to go do something for them in April. I'm planning on going back out to Mortgage Mastermind. Okay. So my team's trying to work with, it's no longer Stephen Marshall. It's now Matt Emery. Okay. So Matt Emery's putting that event on. That's where you and I met, by the way.
Yep.
So we're going to be out at that event. I'm a big proponent of the MBA. So their annual event is in October in Denver. I'll be out there. So I think for us, it's more of what we've been doing, just doing it better, doing it with more intentionality, and doubling down on what worked. And big one, only doing things if it's fun. Like my whole thing is, if it's fun, I'm in. And my definition of fun may be way different than other people's. Like I have fun training for Ironmans. Not everyone does that, but
that's the one thing that I was excited to have you on, because everybody thinks I'm crazy for doing, all this stuff, which in comparison to you, it's still like, cause my biggest thing is CrossFit. I love CrossFit. And then cycling was like so good for my mental health because I could do it 100% while I still wasn't 100% because I couldn't do CrossFit. And dude, I love to go out for a 100-mile bike ride for fun. Like it's awesome.
You would be amazed at how much it makes you a better person, a better business person, a better parent, a better partner. Yes, like there's studies that show getting outdoors and moving your body, what that does for your brain, the dopamine, et cetera. Hey, I need to ask you something. I can see the clock. We're kind of running long, which that's kind of my MO in life. I always run long. I run late and I run long. You mentioned something about stories, and we didn't get a chance. We went from stories and we got sidetracked with cold plunges and then talking about whatever else.
Oh yeah. Next. To wrap that up was saying that I'm very consistent on putting stories on my social media. So outside of whatever your niche is, if your niche is to teach people how to buy a house, if your niche is to teach people how to lose weight, if your niche is to teach people how to eat better, that's not your life. Your life is like, what are your kids doing? Like, what are you doing? Are you traveling? Like, so even though I've only posted, I think today I posted a story about it and it's only been like my 4th time posting it. I don't want to be like one of those really, really annoying guys that posts it every morning. But dude, I've probably gotten like close to, if not over 50 DMs just from the cold plunge stories. And now if you send me a DM and say, dude, how are you doing that? I can take that conversation wherever I want it. I can tell you, dude, you start where you want to start. What are some of your New Year's resolution? Boom. Okay, cool. Hey, by the way, how did business end up last year for you? Oh man. Well, hey, there's this new strategy that I've been using with myself and some of my agents. What do you say we grab coffee next week? Boom. Realtor meeting right there. People don't think like that.
So you're using your reels, your video content
to create an audience.
But you're using your stories to introduce them to Will the human.
And build relationships.
Yeah. So they see your reels like, oh, it's good content. That's professional content. But your story is like, oh, and he's a human. Okay, so then they want to start commenting and DMing, at which point that's an opening. To me, when I'm trying to encourage sales professionals to embrace business media, online networking, I try to attribute it to something that they know, and they know traditional networking. So I talk about if you're doing traditional networking, what do you have to do? You have to shake someone's hand. You have to make eye contact. You have to engage in small talk. What do you think posting is? Right? Posting is eye contact, right? Liking or hearting a comment is maybe shaking someone's hand.
Exactly.
Right? Commenting on their post or you doing a story is engaging in small talk. And ultimately, what's the end goal? The end goal is to leave that networking function and have 1 or 2 people who want to meet with you and get to know you better. The goal of being online is to do all of that for the purpose of one or two people will want to go from online with you to offline. I think you and I could probably do a whole entire
I know, and I know we got it. We got to get you to the airport. The last thing I will say on that, which it happened from May of 2022 to March. I averaged out Facebook or Meta paying me an average of $1,500 a month.
What?
Yep, because of the reach that I was getting, and of course, what they want is they want to keep people on their platform, so that way, if they watch your whole thing, they'll go to the next thing, and what's the next thing? An ad that somebody else is paying them, and so they want people to stay on that app and not leave and go to TikTok, not leave, go to YouTube. So that has gone down because they of all the changes that have happened with like ChatGPT and all this stuff. And but I mean, they still send me like a couple $100 a month, but that's not why I'm doing it. But I'm saying it's like you just don't know the possibilities unless you go out there and do it
consistently.
Dustin, thanks so much for coming out. I know you've already said a couple of times, so where can people find you?
Yeah, so the podcast is The Loan Officer Podcast. Do not let the name fool you. This is a podcast for anybody who's into like business, sales, real estate, mortgage, etc. I'm on YouTube that way. I'm on LinkedIn that way. I'm on Facebook that way. Our IG handle is at The Loan Officer Podcast. If you want to connect with me individually, like Dustin Owen the Human, LinkedIn's my favorite way to do it. So go on LinkedIn, connect with me. If you have questions, shoot me a question. But I definitely encourage you to check out the show if you haven't. Maybe after you listen to Will's show, then the next one you listen to is our show, and wait for Will to drop his next episode. And if you are a mortgage loan originator and you're looking for help, right, training, development, coaching, check us out, TLOPonline.com. At a minimum, sign up for our newsletter. It's free, and we do one free call a month. All you have to do is be a newsletter subscriber, and we will invite you to our one free call that we do every single month.
Cool. Thanks for being here, man.
Will, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.